Good evening and welcome to Suffering in Silence with Minister Tia on Luv Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We are here with you every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. Luv Bay family, we are continuing to rise out of the ashes together. Our topic on tonight is finding yourself. And I am so excited, not just about the topic, but about my co-host on tonight and my guest on tonight. Our co-host is Minister Wanda Ballantyne of Top Ministries, and our guest on this evening is just, I can only use the word beautiful to describe her. Beautiful, beautiful. She's a biblical Christian counselor, Felicia Holmes, and I'm so glad that the both of you are here with me on tonight. Listeners, if you have any questions or comments for our guest or our co-host, you can email us at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com. If you have resources that you would like to share with us on a national or local level from your country, your community, your local organization, or your faith community, you can also email that information to us at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com, and we will share that information with the rest of the listeners for you. So with that, Minister Wanda Ballantyne, would you introduce yourself and say hello to Luv Bay?
Yes, absolutely. Tia, thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. I thank you for this opportunity to be a part of what you're doing. My name is Wanda Ballantyne. I am, again, Tia and I, we worship together. I am also, I work in human resources. I love working with people, the human aspect of people. I have such a desire and a heart to see hearts mended and people in safe and good places. And so that's how I'll introduce myself. I have a heart for those that are listening. And so we've been praying for you guys. So we're super excited about the hearers and then our other person that's going to be with us today. So we're excited about that. So Tia, again, thank you so much. And I'm honored to be here with you, both of you ladies.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, listeners, you can find Top Ministries for service on Sunday in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at the Marriott Philadelphia on 4100 Presidential Boulevard. And you can also find Top Ministries through social media. You look for Top Ministries Philadelphia on YouTube and Facebook. Right? Okay, Minister
Yes.
Danny, be proud of me for that one.
Good job.
So Felicia, please introduce yourself to Luv Bay on tonight.
Yes, thank you, Minister Tia, for having me. It is such an honor and a privilege to be here this evening. And how Tia and I met, we were at a church, a place of worship, and she was leading a counseling service for a group. So I said, oh, let me join this. So I did. And her testimony in her book, I couldn't put it down till I got done reading it. And then I texted her, I said, I can't put it down. It's just awesome. So that's how we originally met, and we connected instantly. Yes. So we know it was definitely God-given. Yes. But I'm a survivor, I'm a thriver, and a conqueror for the things that God wants me to endure, participate, and to help somebody else. I just recently received my board certification in biblical counseling. So that was something that God had called me for, and through an ordination. I have other degrees, but it's still, you got to go from yourself. You start with yourself. It don't matter how many accolades or what you got or who you got or where you at. You're still a person, and you're a person that was created by God for the goodness and his glory. So I'm just privileged and honored to be here and excited.
Thank you so much. I'm excited. Look, Luv Bay, I'm not even going to try to hide my excitement because I'm really feeling it right now. I am. So as usual, we want to start with sharing some resources first before we go into our topic. And first we have in Kenya, Africa, the Coalition on Violence Against Women. Their website is covaw.or.ke. In Malawi, Africa, we have Center for Alternatives for Victimized Women and Children. Their website is CAVWOC Their phone number is 265-052-39-876. Their email address for information is cavwoc@gmail.com. And then we have in Mauritius, Africa, SOS Women. And their website is sosfemmes.intnet.mu. So I pray that these resources would be a blessing to you. And with that, we want to go to our topic on this evening, finding yourself. And so, Felicia, I want to start right with you. And my initial question, I want to be as sensitive as possible and asking the initial question. But in order to find yourself, you have to first be lost. So there, had to have been something that derailed you. So I want to ask you, how was it that you lost yourself, and what was that journey like?
For my journey and my story and my testimony is that I had got married. I relocated to a different state. So I have nobody, no immediate family in the state that I moved to. And it was just him and I. Well, during the relationship, during the marriage, I was physically abused, emotionally abused, financially abused. And it took a lot of work, and I'm still working every day for that process. So that's how, I don't want to say I totally lost myself, but I let other things come before what I should have prioritized, what I knew I should from the beginning was God. That's the first thing. And life happens, things happen, but still, that's always needed to be my core. So during that process, I relocated, I got married, I worked, and things occurred. So when the abuse started happening, you don't realize that it was happening. Yeah. It was like, wow, wait a minute. This is not me. This is not who I am. I'm not putting up with this. You would always say you don't do something until you're in that shoes, and you can never walk anybody else's shoes. So that's where I was at. So I left. I was able to leave without not so much harm, but I was able to get out. Let me say it like that. I was able to get out. And still, you're still hurt after that. You'd be like, well, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? And sometimes you don't have time to make a plan for different things like you would like.
Exactly.
But God, when I put God in control and say, God, you got to help me do this, because I have no physical body here. I have no other options. I don't know anything but him. And once Felicia stepped back, I had to put God forward and let him take control of each and every aspect of that. And in finding myself, I had to do some alterations to Felicia. You know how you got a gown or something and you say, hey, well, I like this.
Yes.
But wait a minute, maybe it's too short, maybe it's too tall, maybe it's too tight, I gotta let it out. So I had to do a lot of alterations to Felicia. And that entailed really getting and sitting within Felicia to rediscover her back to the core and the seed where God created. That was the start. And then after that, I had to take baby steps because it was not easy. It's not an easy process at all. You have to take baby steps and say, okay, well, this time I'm going to work on maybe my eating. This time I'm going to work on my exercise. Or this time I'm going to say, okay, wait a minute, I'm going to read and I'm going to pray and I'm going to meditate, or whatever is good for you with, people say, coping skills.
Yes.
You know, everybody's things are different. So mine would be music. Doesn't matter what type, as long as it has a message that related to Felicia. So I had to go back to the core and the seed of when, and I knew that God created me for, in order to build the foundation to come out. But it takes step by step by step. It does not happen overnight at all.
Yes. So I want to point out, and then I'll ask for you to expound on it.
Sure.
You are an educated woman. You are established in education. You are established in your career. You are intelligent. And so when we deal with domestic violence, we have to, fight against stereotypes. Looking at you and just hearing you speak, you don't fit into a stereotype of what one would believe falsely, that will come from domestic violence. So can you speak to that issue of how, yes, you can be established in these areas and still find yourself in a position where you are lost and you have to find or recreate who you are?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm educated, I'm established, but then I had to go back to the root of where it all began.
Yes.
And then I had to connect the dots of how, or I felt for me, how did I get here? Why did I get here? And so it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter whether you're educated, not educated. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter your culture, your race, your creed. Male, female, boy, girl, doesn't matter. You are a person. And any person is susceptible for abuse.
Yes.
Period. It does not matter. It covers all ranges, all different types, whether it's physical, emotional, financially, verbal, negligence, everything can occur with anybody, and nobody is greater than anybody. God didn't create us like that. He created us all for a reason and a purpose and a plan. So we're all still the same. We are a person, period. And that's the end. It can affect all of us. When some people say it won't affect me, oh yes, it will. One way, another, shape, and form. It can, because that's life, and that's living it as well.
Yes. So, I want to ask you this question, and then Wanda, we'll go to you for a question or comment. But Felicia, what I hear, and just listening to you, is at some point you have to walk in honesty with yourself. And so I want to ask you, how hard or how easy was that for you to come to that point and realize Felicia needs to do something different? Felicia has to get back to Felicia. How easy or hard was that part of the process?
That was the hardest ever, because I and we as people are our worst critics. So I was my worst critic, but also I had to start with forgiving myself first in order to me to process, to be delivered. And then I had to find myself in inner healing at the end. So the only way that I could do that is I had to start back to the seed of Felicia, to the core of forgiveness. But then I had to do some research. I had to read. I had to understand. I had to listen. Sometimes you have to listen in order to know what to do next. You have to be able to listen. And for me, I believe in prayer, so I have to pray about everything before I move. Because if not, then I know I'm off balance. So I have to stay in alignment. And then when I listen, I still have to be obedient to what I'm supposed to do, which way to go from God's voice to me. So that was the hardest for me. What I also did to continue my forgiveness, trail far as journey was I had to write. I had to journal a lot because I was like, wait a minute, how am I feeling? My emotions, my feelings. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, who am I going to tell this to? I went to counseling, still going to counseling. I went to regular counseling. I went to biblical counseling, still do, as a therapeutic meditation for Felicia. You know, I had to incorporate those things. And then I had to set boundaries. Not just for people, but for Felicia. And then don't feel guilty about, if I tell somebody I can't do anything, then what they're going to think about it. I couldn't do that. I had to set work boundaries, you know, as well. Be like, okay, I'm done. This time I'm done. Whatever's not done, it'll get done tomorrow or the next day. You have to set those boundaries in order for you to continue to grow. And when I started with the forgiveness for myself first, I can't expect for me to forgive anybody else if I didn't start with me first. So in order for me to start with forgiveness for myself, that started the healing process for me. And it is also so much growth. That forgiveness is a powerful thing because it could even bring you down or take you further where you need to go. And I had to go back to root issues for me within my childhood for correlation far as my male figure in my life. And what did I see or what did I expect or things I didn't have no knowledge about until I went to my ancestors and found out some things. And I was like, what? You know, I was surprised. And I was like, are you sure? But then it allowed me to forgive and allowed me to be delivered and allowed for Felicia to have inner healing for herself where she could say, hey, I know I can do this. I'm not scared to do this. Even though the challenges come every day, all day, I know I can do it because I said, with God, all things are possible. And God, if you give me the strength, the wisdom, the knowledge to do it, then I got it. I can do it.
Awesome. Wanda, you have a question or comment?
Sure. First, I want to say congratulations. I know at the top of your conversation, you mentioned our most recent accomplishment. So I wanted to say congratulations on that. That's always exciting when you work hard at something and then there's that outcome of it, right? So congratulations on that. I also wanted to say congratulations on being a survivor, a conqueror, and one who endures. And so I wanted to say that because a lot of times when you're going through situations or things that are happening, some of those things are not the forefront or those things are not remembered, but it's so needed to help you get through it. And those things that you listed, they're the determination or they're what you say, who you are now as a result, right? So it's interesting. As I was listening to your story, an incredible story, I wanted to ask a question, which you mentioned actually, I had 3 questions and you've already mentioned one though. So I might have to try to tweak this a little bit here. I was wondering, in the initial stage of the relationship, at some point, was there a light bulb moment or an aha moment that, or a red flag, right? That said, okay, this is not happening or this is happening. Like, tell me a little bit about about that space for you that led you to know that there were things that were definitely on the horizon as you continue.
Okay. I didn't know at the beginning.
Okay.
At the beginning. But I knew when I did the transition to another state. And then we were not living in the same state before. So when I moved to the state, then that's when I started saying this happened, that happened, and this happening. And then when it got to the end about different things, I was like, God, is it just me? And I was like, okay, no, no. And then different things happen. And then, once you live with a person, you learn a person and different are revealed at different points. So that's what happened for me. So I did not know anything of the major at the beginning, but I knew as time progressed and as we would live together, and I moved to the different state.
Okay, so there were telltale signs along the way. My other question is around boundaries, which you mentioned that as well. Did you feel like you had boundaries prior to some of the things that you encountered before?
No.
Okay.
No,
okay.
Because I did everything for everybody but Felicia. No. And then if I didn't, it's like, okay, let me figure out how it can get done. So no. I don't think there was boundaries that I set prior to or on the forefront where I should have, but I didn't. It's like, I could do this, I could do that. I thought I could do everything, but I can't. I'm one person. I'm not God. So, no, I can't. So, no, there was no boundaries that I set for Felicia, to say yes or no at all. No.
So it definitely took courage, though, right? Because it takes, when I think of boundaries, even just in my own personal life, where there are things that I have boundaries or don't have boundaries, and when, like you said, relationally, when it comes time to set that, and when you talk about the environment that you were in, when you begin to set those boundaries in place, even in the process of the more you became aware, the more you knew, the more there were those things that were happening at that juncture, was boundaries part, or did boundaries really became more of a full-fledged thing afterwards? Like
boundaries was after. No,
okay.
It was after, and it was during my deliverance and healing process. Yes, it was definitely after. It was not before, because I thought I could do everything. We humans, and we want to do this, and we thought we want to please people, where that's not what we should be doing. We should be pleasing God first. And then, of course, maintaining your life with your spouse, your partner, your children, but at the same time, you need to set boundaries and say, you can't do it, or limit. Some people like the word limit. You have to do that for yourself. So that way you don't be like, oh, I was supposed to do this, supposed to do that. Oh, I forgot that. But guess what? You forgot to take time to take care of yourself. You forgot to do your meditation or your prayer. You forgot to read or say, I need a peace of mind, joy, divine thought. You forgot to do that today too. So some things you need to do, or even some people do different things. They exercise. Okay, do what you need to do if that's your thing. If yoga or something like that. If you want to do meditation, if you want to read, if you want to journal, because those are just some examples. You could do so many different things because different people do different activities. Some people may like swimming, or kayaking, or whatever they choose to do. Whatever is your thing, take time to do it. And it doesn't have to be all the time, but set it as your goal and your preference, because sometimes that's just what you need. But set it for yourself. Make a plan. Just like we make a plan to go on vacation, set a plan to also take care of yourself as well in the process.
Did you have people that you were connected to that were able to help as you have begun to make the decisions of how you wanted it to look? Like you mentioned so much, like not fully having a plan, but as you started noticing things, did you have people in your sphere of influence or in your space, safe people that were kind of helping to coach you and guide you through this? Or was it?
The main people I had was my family. That were not here, but they end up coming. But the main people I had was my family. And then I have 3 friends that no matter what, one was here, 2 of them are out of state. And I know it was nothing but God for them. And then when I actually left, I think I was more shocked than anybody else. That's the thing. Because it was like, wow, bam, it happened. And you'd be like, but it was like peace. No worry, no stress, no nothing. Because I didn't have it after there from that type of environment. So, but I had people. But then I didn't know about counseling. I started counseling through my job originally because they offered it. And then one day I had Googled about where the restaurants and stuff in. Then these other resources came up about divorce. And I was like, what? So I'm like, wow. Then they have a group, which I'm a part of. You know what I mean? So then my other friend, she said, okay, she's the one that told me about becoming a biblical counselor. She's not even in the same state I'm in. And I was like, what? She said, I think that God is telling you this is what you need to do. I said, well, let me pray about it. Let's pray. So we did. And then I took the course for that. So that's how, but I can tell you that since then, God aligned everything for me. Felicia didn't plan anything, and I am a chronological planner.
I feel you.
I am a chronological planner. I want everything in order, date, time, everything. And for me not to plan anything, God planned everything. It came together like bam. That's the best testimony I can tell you.
So, Felicia, I want to touch on a point that you made about doing it all.
Mm-hmm.
As women in general, we're expected to do it all. Mm-hmm. But as Black women, there's another layer on top of that. We're expected, you got to be wife, mom, take care of the kids down the street, you got to do your job. You got to make sure the household is taken care of. If you're involved in church, ministry is on your shoulders, and you have to make sure that everything is done. And I think sometimes it's not just that we think we can do it or we want to do it, but it's like this unwritten rule. It's just expected of us. It's just expected. You know, you just throw it at us and we just take it and run with it. And at the same time, we have all this on our shoulders. We can do it. I can do it. I can put this together. I can carry this. At the same time, you got to take your hurt and your pain and your situation and bury it. Because it's like we don't have the room. We're not given the room to say, I'm hurting right now. I'm dealing with something right now. I need help. And it's like you're just expected to have the answers and just keep moving forward. So I want to ask you, how did you move through that? Like, how did you, get past that moment to say, I can't take this on my shoulders anymore. I need to do what I need to do for me, regardless of what the world is saying, what the job is saying, what home is saying, what family is saying. I have to do this for me. Because it's hard for women to do something for me.
Exactly. When I realized that I couldn't do it anymore is I had a major loss in my family from death. So that happened. But in the middle of that, also I was still going through everything. So that means I had hurt at home. My family member that died was not in the same state. So I had hurt from there build up. And then I also had sickness. So I felt like if something else happened, that was it for me. Mm-hmm. That was it. There's no way for me to do anything else. So I had them like stacked up. They stacked up, kept stacking up. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm going to burst. That's the way I felt. So that was the, not trigger, but that was the empowerment that said something's got to change. Yes. But the thing that had to change immediately was for my environment to change, because every day it was toxic and it was changing and it was this and it was that and it was this. So I couldn't focus. And then when I had the death experience of my loved one, I couldn't even grieve right. Mm-hmm. There was no way. There was no way, because I already had hurt. I already had pain. Then I have grief. And then it's like, okay, you go to the doctor and this ain't right, and this ain't right, and this ain't right. You be like, what is going on? So I had to choose. What am I going to do? And it's either I'm going to die or I'm going to live.
Yes.
So that was it.
Mm-hmm. So, and you mentioned before, you said, at one point you didn't know what was happening. So I want to ask you, did you not know what was happening because you couldn't put a name to it? You didn't recognize it as abuse? Or, did you not know what was happening because it was just it became normal or was normal? Like, for instance, in my life, today, I can look back to the very beginning of my marriage and I can see abuse from the very beginning. But I didn't call it that because I was used to it. I was normalized to it. So what was an abusive moment? I said, we just had a really bad argument. Because that's what I grew up in. The yelling and the screaming, it was normal to me. So did you not recognize it because you couldn't put a name to it, or were you in some way normalized to it?
I knew it was. I don't want to say I didn't know, but fear overtook me because I was by myself. Where was I going to go? What was I going to do? How am I going to make it? That fear took over. So I knew that. And then in your mind, you say, oh, well, maybe it's going to change. Maybe they just had a bad day. You know what I mean?
Yep.
In your mind, that's what you say. But really, that's not the truth when it keeps happening over and over and over and over again. So, but I knew it, but I was afraid. Fear took over me because I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm in a different state. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? How am I going to make it? I didn't know. So I think when I was pushed to where I felt like I was going to burst, it said I didn't matter. I didn't care about all those other logistical things, where I'm going to go, how I'm going to make it. I didn't care where. You know what I mean? It's like I have to go, period. So I knew it was. I knew it. But fear took over me. Fear took over me totally.
So as you were moving forward in your life, finding yourself, rebuilding yourself, recreating Felicia, you mentioned receiving information from your ancestors, going back to get information from family. How helpful was that to you in moving forward?
It was very helpful because it allowed me to forgive. And I didn't know that it was repeated because we never talked about it. And we never had a discussion that this is what, say, that person did, and I didn't even know about it. And it's like, wait a minute, I let this person do the same thing that you went through, and we never had a conversation. So that's how ancestral hereditary things are very important to share, whether they're good or bad. So that way they don't be a repeated cycle.
Yes. So in my own case, I didn't know until I was an adult. Both of my grandmothers on both sides of my family were abused. Women on both sides of my family, my mother and father, were abused. Men on both sides of my family were abusers. These were things I didn't know until I gotten older, or there were some things I did see when I was younger and I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand, that this is abuse. So for me to come to a point to see, this is a generational thing. This is a pattern that has continually been repeated. That at some point was something that helped me as I went through, because for a long time it was like, why me? Why is this happening to me? But when I sat down and I thought about it, and there were some conversations that I had, it was like, it's not only you. There are just in your family alone, my family alone, there are several individuals. And so that answered a lot of questions. And I think it gave me a fortitude to want to say, you know, all right, this needs to stop. It has to stop. So let it stop with me, and let me do my part, not just in my family, but those around me, you know, to bring awareness, to talk about it. Because when we were kids, everything was silence. Right. You don't talk about nothing to nobody. It's just what happens in this house stays in this house. And that's just it. So I totally understand, you know, that part of getting, you know, information from family. And when you don't have that information, it is detrimental, you know, and it does leave you in that place of, I'm by myself. You know, this is just happening. Like just me. Out of the blue, I'm the only one that just came to me. But when you have that information, when everybody can sit down and talk, this was the generation before you, and this was the generation before that, but nobody did anything. Everybody kept that secret. You know, everybody kept that. What happens in this house stays in this house. Nobody broke that pattern and continued in the unhealthy patterns.
Yeah.
So, Minister Wanda, you have a question or comment?
Sure. So I wanted to talk a little bit about when you mentioned earlier about the fear. First, I want to ask a question about, you mentioned about how in the process of things happening, and you had begun to come to a place where you noticed some things, you started seeing a pattern, and you got to I remember your words weren't breaking point, but where you had there was so much you had encountered, and you got to a point where you had to make a decision. You mentioned about you had to begin to move through what was happening. And trust God. You mentioned about trusting God and just believing God. Does that mean, and my thought is about the hearers that may be in a different space with God, does that mean that you had to not give into the emotions, or maybe tell us a little bit more when you say there were things that you, when you know what that means to trust God. Someone may be in a different space. You know, when you talk about your circle of friends, or you talk about not giving to the emotion, or making sure that you moved yourself out of harm's way, like, were those like some of the, is that what you mean when you said that you were trusting God? Like,
yes.
Sound a little bit more on that.
Yes, no problem. So when I mean trusting God, that means I had to go back to the bare minimum. Not going to ask him for anything. Don't ask for anything. But I had to trust him. And not only trust him, but I had to believe in him, because I knew him from a child, that he is the only one that has the power to sustain Felicia. So that means for every move that I make, I couldn't move without him if he didn't tell me. If he didn't open up the door to do it, there's no way for me to move. I could not. So when you trust somebody, because trust is a big and a huge thing for a lot of people. So when you trust somebody, that means you trust them with your life, for the being, to sustain it, to live, to be here, period. That's all I wanted. And I had to learn how to trust him on this level, from the core all the way out. From nothing at all, to build me back up. There was no way. I couldn't move without him. I couldn't live, because I didn't see a way, because the fear was so much negative, where the trust has to come in to be like, you got to have trust, you got to believe, and you got to have faith. It's like a combination that you have to carry with you.
Thank you for sharing that. You also mentioned earlier about, you talked about alterations, right? As you find in yourself, when you talk about alterations, as you move along in the space that you're in now, and the space that you're moving into, because like you said, this is a continuum, right? It's not a one and done when we come from spaces like this of, any type of abuse. But when you talk about moving into finding yourself, How do you handle triggers when it comes to finding yourself when you're in a space and something triggers that? Because you talk a little bit about certain things not being triggers, but when you're in that space of finding yourself, how do you handle triggers in that?
Mm-hmm. My first thing is always prayer. And everybody can say, you pray about everything. Yes, I have to. I have to pray to survive. That's the way I look at it. So I have to. Some triggers for me was certain foods, certain locations, certain places. So one story that I have is one of my friends that live here, she wanted to go to a diner to eat. And I said, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know, because we went to this diner to eat a lot. I said, oh God, I had to pray. That was my first thing. I had to pray. Because then if I didn't pray, then I knew that fear that I had before would come and overtake me and say, nope, I'm not doing nothing. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be in isolation and afraid to move, to feel, the natural things of life that God has created. I didn't want to do that. So I said, okay. She said, let's go, let's meet. Blah, blah, blah. I said, okay. So we did. And so my first thing was I couldn't sit in the same area that we usually sat in. Mm-hmm. So I said, can we not? I don't want to sit over there. She said, okay, let's go to this side. So we sat. And it was fine because I had to make sure that my mind did not overtake my activities of life that I want to do and endure and participate in. Mm-hmm. Because fear will do that. It will conquer you because it's negative. And you got to surround yourself with positive. And every time my friend, she would ask me, she said, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm fine. She said, are you sure? I'm just checking in on you. So she's a great support system. I said, yes, I'm fine. So we had a great time, so that was something that I was able to conquer. But my first thing is always pray. All the time. I have to pray.
Absolutely.
and then sometimes I have to be quiet and listen to God to say, hey, okay, God, what we doing? Which way we going? What we doing? What we doing? Are we going here? We going there? We're not. Okay, what can I do? So that's always my first thing, is always to pray. And then some other things maybe is just get quiet, meditate, listen to music, whatever you like, dance, whatever. Some people, they call them coping mechanisms. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just have to do, right? Exercise to get off some energy, or participate in an activity, that allows you to do so. So that was my main thing.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. It's interesting that you say how the support system that you have. I always think about, and having taken the course with Tia and have learned, a huge whole lot, and I'm still learning this area. And it's nothing like having a support system, people that will be able to be there for you and help you with no strings attached. Never would I have ever thought, taking this course that Tia does, Minister Tia does, that it would be helping me. Again, I work in HR, and just even yesterday, I had a situation that was on the down low sent to me, and it had to do with domestic violence. And so we have protocols in the workplace, but surely my first thought was, how can I get her Tia's book? To your point about putting it down, and I have people in my space and my sphere of influence that this is just a not a charted area, just simply because of, like you said, the fear, the anger, like just things that you had to grapple with. You made a decision to grapple with it for the sake. So I want to say thank you, because today you have a story of coming through. And, I think of people who would not have vocally gone and vocally shared like you and Tia do, which is so important. We have this thing, a policy on my job that says, and it's with a megaphone. If it happened, then you need to say it. You need to talk, because if not, there isn't anything that we can do about it.
Yes.
And to Tia's point, when she mentioned about generational things that we handle and deal with, that's so not talked about. And I come from a different form of abuse, but I do. I ask those questions from auntie and them and uncles and grandparents so that I can close in some of those spaces. So, I think about how it definitely has to be hollered to the rooftop. I can't thank you enough for coming through that so that you could share with us today. And those that are hearing, right, it's nothing like being able to hear how people have recovered and is still coming, and there still is recovery, right, that's happening in that. So I want to thank you for your story, your transparency. You're still walking through that and sharing, the things that are necessary, and the fact that it is different for everybody. Thank you for not boxing us in, because it looks different for everybody. So I definitely appreciate that as well. And the fact that you're still evolving. So it's not like it's one and done. Again, it's something that you have to continue. And like you said, you'll have to add those alterations. I like the fact that you're able to go into an environment based on, like you said, your relationship with the Lord. Ask God's direction and how, but not be limited and not let the fear keep you from possibly enjoying the moment, like you said, with your friend that you were going in there. So you get to, I love being able to be taken to another level in my thought process, so where it doesn't feel like, hey, I don't have to not do that. I love doing that, right? So definitely thank you so much for being willing to still choose the things that you enjoy doing. But definitely, like you said, making that decision based on your walk with the Lord and your direction, but just deciding carefully how you're going to do that. That's what when we go through things like this, bringing it into community. When you can bring that into community and it can be embraced by others with you, it tells you that we are on the right path there, right? And so, long story short, I had a situation, right, when I first got married because of the abuse, and I was going through counseling, and because of we were playing and something happened and it triggered it. And when it triggered it, I was a different person. And my husband scooped me in his arms and held me close and reminded me of my place and his place in my life. As my kiddo cried on my bosom, wondering what's going on with mommy. But we were taught, like you said, that community aspect of bringing that in, because there was a trigger I had no control over. I had no idea. We were just playing. And sure enough, he coached me through that, and we coached through that, and I'm rubbing her, baby, it's going to be okay. And honey, thank you so much. I know that you mean well. And so, to your point. So thank you so much for sharing. I tell you. Thank you.
Absolutely. And any success, if you don't share the success, then it's not effective. So that's why God gives it to us. You got to share the success, good or bad, because just believe and know that it reaches people, especially, thank God, we're all over the world. So,
yes. Well, Luv Bay, we wanted to welcome you again to Suffering in Silence with Minister Tia on Luv Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We are here with you every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. We have a replay on Tuesday afternoon at 1 p.m. and also 7 p.m. Eastern, and then again on Thursdays and Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern. And Luv Bay, we want you to remember that we are continuing to rise out of the ashes together. We have a few more resources for you. In Mayette, Africa, we have the Association for the Status of Women and Victim Assistance. Their hotline phone number is 02-6961-2949. In Nigeria, Africa, we have Project Alert on violence against women. Their website is projectalertnig.org. And in Rwanda, Africa, we have Rwanda Women's Network. Their website is rwandawomennetwork.org. And with that, Felicia, I really just want to congratulate you. Luv Bay, I wish that we were televised at this moment so you could see this beautiful woman. She is just glowing right now. Her smile is gorgeous. I mean, just her spirit and her personality is just absolutely beautiful as well. But Felicia, I just want to congratulate you on finding yourself, on moving through, accomplishing your own goals, getting to where you are, and reaching back and helping others. You are just so beautiful right now, and I just can't thank you enough for being with us. But I really want to say, you did not just get better. It did not just happen. You put the work in. And so, listeners, I really want to emphasize that you have to put the work in. I say this all the time. Your healing is a personal responsibility. You have to take responsibility for your healing journey. It's not easy, but it is doable. You wherever you are, you take that moment and you start. And you are more than the role or the activity that you're fulfilling. You're more than a wife. You're more than a mother, a sister, an employee, a minister, a counselor. Those are things that you do. And they may be things that you are very good at. They're things that are a part of you, but they are not you. And a lot of us are walking in these different roles. We're fulfilling these roles. We're successful at these roles, but we have no success within us because we're hurting and we're broken and we're doing everything for everybody, that superhero syndrome, and not taking care of ourselves. So I really want to emphasize that, and Felicia, I would ask, if you would just add your thoughts to it. You have to take responsibility for your healing process. Nobody can be healed for you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So one person that comes to mind all the time is Ayanna Van Zant, and she always say, you have to do the work. You have to do the work. So that was a big thing in my head. She always said, you have to do the work. In order for you to be healed, delivered, inner healing, you have to do the work. You are worth it. You are worthy. Yes. And you are deserving of the joy and the promises of God. It's just absolutely, but you have to do the work. It's not going to be easy. Some days are better than others. Some nights is different than others. Some days is different than others. It's not easy. It's not an easy journey, but always remember that you are destined for greatness and you deserve it. You deserve it and you're worthy of it because that's how God created us. And he wants the best for all of us, no matter where you at, no matter where you look like, it doesn't matter. We are people. People are people, and we are all affected. Mm-hmm. And we all want to be loved and respected. And you are worthy of the greatness of God.
Yes. And Minister Wanda, you touched on this a little bit earlier. Basically, it's okay to still be on the discovery journey. It's okay to still be finding yourself. And that's another point, that I want to emphasize. You don't have to have all the answers right now. Just as Felicia was saying before, one point at a time. It might be food today you're working on. It might be exercising tomorrow. It might be, different hobbies or whatever it is. It may be, the mental and emotional part. But the point is to keep moving forward, to keep taking steps. And I want to say this too, and I would ask you both to add to it in your own way. Finding yourself, I believe. I know in the very beginning, it may be fearful and hard, but you can enjoy finding yourself. If you don't have to be in a spot where you're just devastated and frustrated and just lost and confused. You can have fun finding you, rediscovering you. You can enjoy the process. So I want to emphasize that. I mean, you have some fun. Go do some stuff you've never done before. Make a list. I made a list of stuff I wanted to do. I wanted to jump out of an airplane. And so I called one of my cousins. I said, all right, I want to do skydiving. And then we went, there was an indoor skydiving place. So I said, all right, let's try this first. And she was gung-ho. She was like, all right, let's go. Well, we got there. And do you know I was miserable? I couldn't stand it. So I said, but I checked it off the list. So I know if I don't like the indoor skydiving, I'm not going to like the real one. But you know what? It was an afternoon out with my cousin. We took the kids. You know, we had fun. I realized, you know, I don't like all this wind rushing up in my face. I can't breathe. It was fun. I marked that off the list. Now move on to the next one. You can enjoy your process, finding yourself. So ladies, I would ask you what you think about that.
Ma'am, I'll let you go first.
Okay. So my thing for me is never say never. Never say never what I will or will not do, because you never know when God brings back to you. He said, remember you said that, Felicia? So for me, I never say never what I will or will not do. And I am always inquisitive to try. Now, whether I say I will or not, but at least if I try something, then I say, okay, I did try it, but I don't like it. So that's a choice that I can do. But always enjoy and do what you want to do, not what nobody else want to make you do. Because we already experienced that. I did. No, not doing that. So I'm going to do the way I want to do, how I want to do. So, but like Minister Tia said, enjoy yourself. Be creative.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to cost a lot. It don't have to do a lot. Go to the park. Go in the backyard. Walk around the block and see what's going on sometime. Or down the street or whatever. You know, you choose to do. Some people, they say, well, what about mall walking? Go mall walking and see what's going on. You know, just different things. You know, just some suggestions, but don't limit yourself. Always keep your mind open to unlimited opportunities. And then if you ever get a chance to do something, and usually you will, somebody will say, hey, you want to do this? And you'll be like, I don't know if I want to do that. Or if you may be leery about it, just go. Go and see and do it. Be like, hey, I did go, but I didn't want to do that, you know, or zip lining or something like that. You know, like, I ain't doing that. But just go. Just go and try. But never say never. Never give up. Never, ever give up. Because there's always an open heaven ready to pour you out blessings. So that's my best advice.
I can agree with you both more. Absolutely. As Tia said, in the process of finding yourself, definitely let loose. My name means adventurous. So the things that you guys mentioned, I did it and I had a blast. When I zip lined, I tell you, I let go. I mean, I didn't care if anything fell off. Long as I was fully dressed, I was good. But listen, I let go and I just let the wind, and it felt like, you know, like what you're talking, and you didn't say it exactly, but it felt like there was a burden that was lifted off of me because I was able to do something that, and my name means adventurous. So because my name means that, I love doing things. I'm the first person on the ride at the roller coaster because I want to be able to put my arms up. So I began to do things. Even recently, here it's been 12 years I've been out of a particular situation. And I went just this weekend, and I was smiling and laughing and just thanking God and the opportunity to just have fun. And I didn't have to worry, because it's when you find your voice, you're learning and knowing what it is that you can and want, and all those, and filling it out. It's okay to fill it out and not have a science on it. No science, no rules, no, right? Just do it and have fun and enjoy it. And then you start coming even more into yourself, knowing, oh, you know what? I don't like mint. I like chocolate. I only ate mint because that's what, right? Oh, now I like chocolate. And my husband calls me chocolate drop. So chocolate works fine for me. You know what I mean? So definitely as you're on that journey, enjoy it as you're recovering and walking through and journaling and on this journey. As our sister said, thank you. Yes, absolutely.
And do it at your pace. Do it at your pace.
Yes.
Do it at your pace. Nobody else's pace. Do it at your pace.
Well, thank you, ladies, so much. We are at the hour now. This went by fast. This went by faster than normal. But ladies, thank you so much. I really would ask for each of you just to give that one final thought to our Luv Bay listeners on finding yourself? You know, and we know everybody's journey is different. You know, you can be scared, but you know you can get to that point to where you enjoy it. I just want to encourage everybody to start somewhere. Just start somewhere, and as Felicia said, at your own pace. You know, you don't let anybody make you do anything you don't want to do, but just start somewhere. So ladies, I would just ask, you know, if each of you, and Felicia, I'll ask you first, just your final thought to leave with the listeners on tonight on finding themselves.
Just always believe in yourself, because we are our worst critics, our own self. But always believe in yourself. Always trust in yourself. Always make sure that you are safe and you are comfortable, and know that you could do it. You could do it. You could do it. Believe in yourself. And also reward yourself. Reward yourself. And be faithful to yourself. You know, other things we are faithful in our life, in our journey, but be faithful to yourself when you find in yourself. Be true to yourself. Forgive yourself. And most importantly, love yourself. Yes. Love yourself like you love others.
So, Felicia, I want to ask you really quick. Are you taking clients at the moment? You know,
no, not yet. Okay. I gotta wait for 2 more things.
Okay. So I'll have clientele for you.
Okay, no problem.
So, Minister Wanda, your final thought for the Luv Bay listeners on tonight.
Absolutely. Once you make a decision, and once you know that's the direction that you want to go in and you need to go in, for not just yourself, but for those that you influence, once you make that decision, continue to follow through with that decision. Mm-hmm. As Felicia was saying, you have to be true to yourself. This is part of loving ourselves. This is part of being true to ourselves. Once you make a decision, follow through. No matter how many times you felt like you messed up on what you really want that to look like, don't give up. Still keep pressing in. Still keep moving forward. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. Yes. So continue to progress through as you continue to walk through, would be my final words for the listeners.
Ladies, thank you so much. Felicia, thank you for being here. Wanda, thank you for being here. I enjoyed this so much. Felicia, you have to come back. You have to come back and be with us.
No problem. Thank you for having me. Thank you as always. And thank you for meeting you as well, Minister Wanda, as well. And I thank God for allowing me to be here to tell my story.
Thank you. And Luv Bay, Minister Wanda will be back in a couple weeks. And she'll be back after that too.
Yes, ma'am.
Luv Bay, if you want to catch up on previous episodes from the program, you can visit our YouTube channel, Suffering in Silence DV. We thank you for joining Suffering in Silence with Minister Tia on Luv Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio, here with you every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. And Luv Bay, please remember that we are continuing to rise out of the ashes together. Good evening.